and welcome to this episode of Pardon Your French podcast in partnership with Coppercock Distillery.
You know, when you obviously live in the UK, you've got your friends and family there, and when you move to France, if you do it properly, you will make lots of friends here and you will have a community. But that comes with a lot of responsibility. It really does. But I also know people that have moved here not long ago, haven't been involved in the community, and they're already going again.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that is, you know, it's a privilege and a responsibility, but that will define your life if you move to any country.
Yeah.
Whether you thrive or you feel like you've failed and you're too isolated or you're lonely and you leave. Like in the last 6 months, I've known a flood of people that have gone back to England. And I look at, zoom out a little bit, and I was like, because you didn't learn French, you couldn't associate with your French neighbours or community, or you didn't even try. Like, everybody knows I'm not fluent, but I get by and I try. So I go to like community events and, be part of the association for that.
Yeah.
And that's what holds and glues people together. Especially in these tough times with the weather. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong believer in being a part of the community. I mean, Simon's gotten a lot more active in the community, that he's playing pool in now, that he's kind of branched out on his own a bit and is starting to really understand and see the other perspective of, learning French. And, he's been here a long time. He speaks quite a lot of French, and people are always really surprised because
I was when I said,
like, what if I didn't think you speak a word? But then he'll meet new clients that'll come in and say, I can't believe that nobody at the hardware store here even tries to speak any English. And he's like, if you were in England and you went into a hardware shop rattling away in a foreign language, they'd tell you to fuck off.
Yeah, they'd be like,
here,
I don't speak French here.
Yeah, they're so patient.
Yes.
And they're so accepting.
Yes.
I mean, and that doesn't go for everybody, but generally, you do not meet French people who want nothing to do with you because you are foreign.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really beautiful part of living in a multicultural area, as rural as it is. People are like, actually, these people coming into the community are good for us. Yeah, bringing money in, they're bringing the labor in, they're bringing, the kids are
dynamic. Yeah, and actually, I think they're quite proud that a foreigner would choose their country or specifically their area to come and be part of the community. Because, like, where I was, that was not a thing.
No,
we'd be like, "Oh my God, you're Spanish!" Welcome.
Yeah.
So why? But it's so common out here, and even when I took my dad to the Prefecture, for his carte séjour to get it renewed, and the guy behind the counter was like, "Can I practice my English with you?" And I was like, "Absolutely, you can." Yeah. I can't always tell you're going to know the French words. Do they match the English words? But we had a conversation, like a Franglais conversation.
Thanks.
But he felt quite happy that he'd had that interaction.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there we are. I've taught you something. And I haven't felt like I taught anything for such a long time. Such a long time.
Yeah.
Literally, I really haven't. But so we were talking the other day about I think it's not just a French thing. It's quite common in Spain. A lot of people can have a moment in their lives wherever they're currently living and then go, oh, I'm gonna change my life completely and relocate to whatever country they choose. Now, it's quite prevalent in, Benidorm, the Costa del Sol, that you get a mixture of people there that have either got divorced or, they've had a tragedy or they've run away from their life because it just didn't suit them anymore. They wanted a fresh start. And
I think it's common for all expats to kind of have that, yeah, even if you're not running away, that fresh start.
fresh start.
Reinvention.
The reinvention. And I am a total believer in reinvention because I believe reinvention is growth. And I don't believe human beings were ever born to be the same person all their life. And you have chapters, you outgrow people, environments. So I was saying to you the other day, wasn't I, that like it's, you know, a lot of people maybe have moved from a situation in England and they've gone, right, I'm going to move to France because then it's going to be different and I'll have everything I want. Or they create this dream life in their head. And I was like, and I didn't do that. Mine was, my dad suggested we moved and he'd had cancer and he'd got better. So it was a life-changing decision, but more of an adventure thing. But I do know there are people that have moved here because they were unhappy with what they had in England. Fair play, move, give it a chance, give it a go. But what I have actually realised, a lot of situations that you encounter here without boundaries will end up the same in England as they were in England. Like I, growing up, was always that go-to fix, the fun kind of person. I was reliable. I always do what I say I'm going to do, and I show up for people relentlessly, and I often sacrifice what I'm trying to do or my life to help others. Now, that is, I've discovered recently, a trauma response to when my mum left on my 18th birthday. I was thrown into a role of, oh, okay, I'm now like the mother, the woman of the household. I have to do the cooking, the cleaning, which was fine. I didn't mind. And I was obviously learning skills that I wouldn't have had to have done before. But it threw me into a whole different life, that I became this responsible caregiver that most 18-year-olds are going, I'm off to travel the world or go and cause a ruckus somewhere, where I was more grounded all of a sudden, and it shook my world. So those kind of skills and responsibilities that I had, I just carried on using in whatever job I had, whatever friendship circle I had, you know, severely looking after my dad.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I was like, I moved to France and I carried on that role. And then I was like, actually, I kind of got to the point where, not resentment, but I could feel like, well, I'm doing all this for everybody a lot of the time. What are they doing? And I kind of got to question, not in a negative way, but I was like, but if I'm doing this, and this, and I'm solving 5 of their problems, I'm distracted from what I am trying to do with my own life, my own goals. So I stopped for a moment. For a couple of days, actually, it took me to unpick it all. How did I get into this position where I am constantly going from A to B and getting nowhere, and I'm driving here to there, everywhere, and I'm burning hundreds of euros worth of fuel a week, but I have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
and you start to feel resentful. You do start to feel like you're being taken advantage of,
and
or taking the piss out of.
Yeah, but I never recognized that feeling in myself before, because it was almost a given. Like, well, Steph can do it. Steph's available. Steph will do it. And I was like, but I had associated that responsibility as they needed me to do it. So I was valuable. So that meant I was okay. And on the flip side of that, I'm like, now I've realized the more I do, the less they do, the less I am giving them the opportunity to grow themselves or try to problem solve. I'm an easy solution because I positioned myself without even realizing that, because I just wanted to be helpful. but it's then to the detriment of them, but also to me.
Yeah.
Because by the end of every week, I'm like, how am I chronically burnt out and fatigued, but I haven't actually achieved anything?
Yeah.
And I realized that I had spread myself so thin that I was then no good to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's a massive like learning curve for me. But then I would always look at people when some people needed help and other people would step back. I used to see that as a really negative thing. And I'm like, how could you let that other person struggle? Or how could you not offer your services? And then this one line changed everything. And it was, they're just further along the learning curve than you are, Stephanie.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is like an old pattern that since 18 I haven't shred. And not that I want to save people, but when you're a helpful person, you don't often see there's a line that you have to draw for yourself and for them. And I was here, there, and everywhere. And like I say, my life every day is going by, and I'm like, oh, I've not achieved anything. I questioned everything about who I am and actually why I was put on this planet and what I wanted to do with it. Especially because there's been obviously a lot of death around. I'm like, oh my God, right. They have taught me to just take each day and prioritize what I want to do, who I want to be, even with Carter and my dad. And the rest of it, if I've got a bit of energy left, they can utilize, but they won't dominate my entire existence.
Yeah.
So I've had a very tough word with myself, but I think a lot of people do run to different countries because they're fighting or they don't feel complete or aligned with who they were in their original country. And they just think they'll come to, say, France, and there's a magic pill. And it's like, no, actually, if you still have the same patterns of behavior, then you will create, and you will find those people, or they will find you,
those same
where they can push you.
Yeah.
And they will manipulate a boundary because they think, well, you'll do it, no questions asked. And I don't judge them for doing that, because a lot of the time people don't realize they are, but I don't know, you think, well, I wouldn't ask somebody to do that for me, but it's always that they will ask me to do something.
Yeah.
Because they know I'm a yes person.
Yeah.
That people pleasing, let's keep everything smooth running, so then I might be able to have a moment of thought for myself. So I just want to highlight that point that I've learned, because if you think you're going to move country and you're going to meet all of these people and it's going to completely change who you are, your existence, do know that it won't if you don't have boundaries that you are insistent on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I see so many people come here and then go again. And I'm like, but if you just implemented some boundaries in your life, whether it be your neighbors, you know what I mean? Or your community. And you know me, all up for community.
Yeah.
But there has to be boundaries within that community, because you will be depleted very quickly, because it is such a machine out here. You all have to play your parts, not just one or two people keeping the cogs are going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it is that dynamic, and everybody has a skill. Whether it be gardening or DIY or paperwork or French, everybody has a skill that they can bring to the party. But I do often see people like stepping back a little bit. And I used to think, oh, that's not very generous of you. But now I realize actually they're protecting their own sanity a lot of the time, their own time, and their existence. And I was like, so now I look at things completely different.
Yeah.
But it took a hard conversation.
There's always going to be, especially when people move, I think, to a different country, and there's a lot of stuff you have to learn. There's always going to be people that need help. You're always going to meet people that you could go, oh, I could do that for you. I can help. I can take you here. I can introduce you to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's in under the guise of genuine friendship, and sometimes it's our own trauma that like drives us to do certain behaviors, and their own trauma that drives them to continue to ask.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not necessarily in a malicious,
No.
purposeful way. It just sometimes those relationships aren't the ones,
the healthy ones.
yeah, aren't the ones you want to keep perpetuating.
Yeah. I
Actually,
just got to get really aware, self-aware,
yeah,
that if it makes you feel uncomfortable, if you think genuinely I don't have time, then you have to be honest, because I've also learned that I have pushed or cut people off in my life because I was giving and giving and giving and giving so much, and like all these little internal stress signals were there that I completely, over, like in a toxic boyfriend girlfriend relationship, or marriage, I completely overrode them, my instincts, and I shut them all down because I'm like, no, that makes you a bad person if you think this way, or if you don't go and do that errand for them, that makes you a real shit friend. So I close them all down, and actually now I've realised those little signals are the ones in your body, like the tension or the gut punch or the hairs on the back of your neck. They are what you have to listen to first before your brain comes in with an opinion. And that's when you go, I'm really sorry, but I don't have time, or I'm really sorry, I'm not available, or I actually don't think I want to do that.
yeah.
And it's okay to say no.
I think as well, one of the big parts is not giving an excuse for why you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm not free.
Yeah,
that day off. Yeah, and that's something that I've kind of taken on board better this year. It's like, I don't have to tell you why I wasn't there. I don't have to tell you where I was instead.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not beholden to you and what you want from me.
Yeah.
I'm beholden to myself. If I feel okay about it, then it's not really your place to decide if it's not okay.
Yeah.
You know? But and it's hard to get over that, like, you know, behavior, that like excuse making.
Patterns. Yes. Patterns that you have to justify.
Yeah.
Like when you're a little child, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, but I didn't mean to, or I broke that vase and I didn't mean to because I was being clumsy. You know what I mean?
It's like stuff breaks. House friends, shit happens, people die. Yeah, and that's one of those things that. But I'm starting to realize. You realize a lot more.
Yeah, and it's been an intense few weeks, hasn't it? But it also makes me realize that I wasn't being actually fair to the other people that I've cut, because I didn't know how to say no to them. And they weren't wrong for asking in a certain way, but my resentment built, and I should have been able to be brave enough to say, actually, I don't want to do, or that's taking the piss, or do you you know what I mean? Because I'm like one of the busiest people I know, but I still would go and do more and more and more for other people.
Yeah.
And less busy people wouldn't, and I would question that. But now I'm like, actually, I have to be fair in my friendships or relationships and say to people, I don't want to, and that is enough. Or I think you're asking too much of me in that situation. I can't oblige.
Yeah.
This time, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not even I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
And then it gives them the opportunity to maybe see that I have boundaries that they can't or they shouldn't push.
Yeah.
But if somebody keeps testing and pushing your boundaries, then they're obviously not meant to be.
Well, on that note, we'll finish this episode.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.